Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining another Research Nexus session today on the 24th of September. Uh, we are, uh, and we have a very exciting presentation for you. I don't think we have ever done something like this before. My name is Deb, and I'll be hosting the session today. And as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you can revisit anytime you want. Before we dive in, I'll cover a few housekeeping items to ensure that you have the best experience possible. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to use the chat feature, and our team will be monitoring it, and we will best try to address your inquiries as soon as possible. If time permits, we'll have a dedicated Q&A session at the end too. We encourage you to actively participate, and if something resonates with you, please do open up a discussion. And then let's talk about what we can expect today. We are honored to have Miss Cindy Ogren come today and talk to us about her expertise in data science and data mapping and visualizations. She is with Institutional Research. If you haven't visited that website, please do. It is absolutely fascinating. What an amazingly presented uh, website that she maintains and creates kind of content for that kind of speaks to what we do as a university. And we're very excited to get started. And without much delay, let's jump in. Cindy, please take away.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Thanks for that introduction. It was great. I was talking earlier, I was like, data, dude, I want to talk data to research faculty. And I was like, yes, I do. Data is so much a part of everyone's lives, but researchers, I feel like are just drowning in data, and you have lots of data, and how do you best present it and such. So we'll kind of talk through some of that. And like we said, feel free to add any questions to the chat, and I'll try and answer those. So we'll talk a little bit about why you should use data visualization. Hopefully it becomes clear by the end that you need it, and it'll really help your presentation, get funding, all of those things to help beef up your research. And then we'll talk a little bit about principles, chart types. We're currently, I'll be showing you some screenshots of some Tableau dashboards, but we're currently migrating to a Power BI platform, and I'll show you some of those also. And then I'll talk about next steps, what kinds of things, how do you go from here? How do you're so excited and joined by my my slides that you're like, I got to get me some Power BI, and I'll show you how to get a license and get you up and running. So data, you guys, I'm sure, have tons of data from clinical trials, lab results, large public databases. I'll show you a few dashboards that I've created off some CMS, Department of Homeland Security, on hospital data and federally qualified health centers. Those are very large databases, and trying to glean out what are the salient points of that data becomes very hard, and requires a good tool, business intelligence tool, to bring out the point of your data. So it's trying to stretch beyond statistical data, and you really want to try and draw the story that's sitting in your numbers. And the way you do that is you can reveal correlations and trends, through data visualization and mapping your data points. You identify outliers, drill down into those outliers and see what's causing those outliers. And then just looking at data over time. You have a treatment, and what's the effectiveness of that treatment over a time frame. And then communication. How do I collaborate with others, and how do I best communicate my findings of my research? Trying to do that clearly and concisely is hard, but a good graph data visualization will do that in very short order. And then also just our brains are hardwired for visual information and not looking at graphs and paragraphs. People don't want to read through all the text and tables. They want to get right to a nice visual that shows your points. Oops. All right. So this is an example where I've got the hospital and federally qualified health center data with geotagging data in there, and it's just huge. It's wide and it's tall, 100,000 plus rows. And what I do here, this is an example of a Tableau dashboard that we currently have, and you can map out. You select a particular state, a particular city that you're interested in. So you select a region, and it'll tell you immediately what your hospital count is. And it'll visualize on this map these dots, which are color coded by the type of hospital: a children's hospital, a general acute care, critical access. They're all represented with these dots. And then you can select a radius rather, and you could say, 50-mile radius or 25. It's a sliding scale, so you can move it up or push it out, however you want to do that. But then it pulls into view, takes all that 100,000 plus, and it puts in this nice visual. It says, oh, for this state of Arizona, for the city of Chandler, these are all the hospitals in a 50-mile radius. And you would select a hospital, and then it would give you this detailed spreadsheet. So spreadsheets are good in its way, but the visualization helps you filter and define what data you specifically want. And then that gives you that detailed spreadsheet that says, here are the federally qualified health centers that you want to look at for that particular region. I've also mapped in here, you can kind of see the little buildings there. Those are medical schools. So we want to know what kind of competition is happening in that particular region. We could see, oh, Mayo's got a clinic up in Scottsdale, or wherever it is. But those are mapped in this chart also. I'll also note that the background of this, if you look at the map, you can do map overlays to say, I want to look at certain population centers. So it'll put the census data, and it'll color code the census data on your background map. So those, I think, could be particularly good for any public health type of data that you're looking at. But lots of possibilities on maps and different views of the maps. Also, you can see these black circles. Those are for every community health center. So I can change the filter and say, I want to narrow in on a particular health center. And so I could select that, or I could select a hospital type, only give me the acute care ones, and it'll filter that even further. Then to give you that spreadsheet view. So what are good principles for a good visualization? You want to have a good clarity in your chart. You want to be able to instantly have people understand what you're trying to represent in that chart. You always want to try and date timestamp. I don't know how many times I have people, create a snapshot of the screen that you're seeing, and look at the date timestamp. You can see how um, the latency of your data that's being represented on the dashboard. You want to talk about your data sources, and you want to also show your viewer metadata, your information about the data. What major transformations did you do? You want to talk about accuracy. You want to avoid misleading scales. So generally, you always want to show that zero baseline, but there are some cases in spark lines where people get around it. Just you want to point out that you are changing the scale if you do that to show a non-zero baseline. Simplicity. There's a saying within the BI community that's friends don't let friends do pie charts. Pie charts look great, but if you have too many slices, people really can't discern all those slice angles, and it can be misleading in your data. So be really cautious about pie charts, only if you've got a few categories. But it's generally not a great idea. Donut charts, you can do bar charts, are great, stack bar charts. And we'll show some examples of those. And then lastly, ethics. You want to protect, I'm sure you have patient data. You want to protect the privacy of your patient data, not using names, using numbers, those kinds of things. And then just overall, it's a great idea to have peer reviews. So you're creating a visualization. You need to do a review session with your collaborators to take a look and see if they have the same interpretations that you do, or they might see something else. So peer reviews are great for getting all of those things accurate. I want to talk a little bit about statistics and the box and whisker chart that you see here. This is very important in research, and the visualization tools do it really well. They have canned box and whisker chart. So it's select this type of chart, and then it'll put all the variables down for you to fill in the blanks, pull your data into. I'll show you a dashboard or a Power BI session, and we can kind of look through the elements of that. But in the statistical side for a box and whisker, you've got the min and the max values on the outside, and then you divide it up into 4 quarters. So the median is exactly 50% of your data, and then the second quartile is the lower quartile, and the third quartile is the upper quartile. And then showing a normal distribution chart. But if you look on the far right, I've actually got an example of a box and whisker that I was using to represent IT response times. So I took the tickets that are sitting in Avanti and selected out the data on the user that's requesting it by school program. So you can see Ash's speech pathology to ASDO to Doctorate of Health Sciences. So it goes down to the program level, and then also filtered it. So you'll see response times going up by year, 2020 through 2024. And then you'll see each of those dots are representing the average response time for a particular department or group. And you don't see all the dots labeled because this is a busy chart, but these dashboards are interactive. So you would move your cursor over those dots, and you'd see what each of those dots represent, which school and program they represent. This box and whisker is also great for showing. You can see in 2021, see this big ASDO ATSU. We had a bunch of tickets during COVID in the ASDO arena, and they languished. They sat for a bit. So you could see your outliers. You could drill down to what tickets are making up that particular dot, and then you can start doing your research on what caused that outlier. So this is probably one of the best examples of a chart that I think the research group would use, but there are certainly many others, but this one I think is a nice one to show a lot of data in very small real estate. So that was the box and whisker. Like I said, it's really good for that, showing data dispersity or data distribution over time. The bar charts, I'll show you an example of that. I use bar charts all the time. They're really good. I use stack bar charts so you can compare over time um, uh, the race and ethnicity of student population over time. Is it up or down, or what? How is it trending over the years? Line charts are also very good for trends over time. You can do bar charts and line charts at the same time in a graph, and those are nice to show incremental and then cumulative values also. Scatter plots showing relationships between two variables. I haven't used too many of those, but I think those would be very good in a research data setting. And then geographic maps. I probably get the most requests for maps, especially from the leadership team. Dr. Phelps loves maps. I do the alumni maps for the university, and they love to see the slice and dice that, what are our first year matriculants? Where are they coming from? The incoming students, and then where all our alumni across the US. And then heat maps. Heat maps are very nice to show. You could show that in a like a spreadsheet format, but you can see the color coding differences. So if it's more, the high numbers are higher than the map color is, or the square color is a darker color or lighter color, however it is you want to scale that. But heat maps are another great way to show intensity of your data, and great for again, that public health and population-based studies. This is a visualization that I did with working with Dr. Roy, and this is a patient survey that's done at each of the ATSU clinics, and it is automatically sent out, or they get a QR code, and then the patient will answer the series of questions, and that's the list of questions that you see listed in the bar chart below. But in between there, you see the donut charts that show the demographics. So you can see the demographics, patient demographics in the middle, total responses at the very top, and you could filter by certain clinic. If I only wanted to see Gutensong, I'd select out that Gutensong clinic, and the visualization changes. The numbers will change, the demographics will change, and then the response rates on the very bottom will change also. The you can see an info button you could put, which are very nice. You can click on the eye with the circle on it. You click on the info button, and then it opens up links to different documents. I think in this case, it links to the iconograph that Dr. Freeman generated. So it gives you right then and there what's the latest PCC iconograph document for this particular dashboard. And then you see last recorded date. So what was the last survey response that this chart is representing? And then filters. If you look at the filter page, I don't have it expanded, but you can filter by gender, age, ethnicity, and race. So let's say I selected gender. If I said, oh, I only want to get what's, there's a lot of female population in these surveys. Let's see what the gender responses look like. So you'd filter by gender, and this chart would change to only say gender. So my donut chart would only be gender. And then I would see what for the female, those that selected the female gender, you'd see their range of ages, their range of ethnicities, and their range of race. And then also you would see just the female responses in this dashboard. So you'd try and get a feel for, is there a differentiation by gender in their responses to the survey? And then on the very bottom, you see the response rate. So each of the questions, were the clinical staff friendly and helpful? How easy is it to schedule an appointment? Was the exam room clean? All of those questions are laid out in such a way that you have a sliding response. So the response of the lighter blue is very good. So light blue is the highest you can get, is the highest positive response that you can get. So you'll see that in the light blue. The darker blue is more, it's good. The fair is neutral in the orange in the middle, and then the violet and the grays on the opposite end on the right hand side of that spectrum is a negative response. So that way you can quickly visualize, hey, most people are happy with their experience at the clinic. You can see probably the question that's popping up most is with the most low scores or not applicable is that we're professional students, we're health profession students professional. Not all the clinics have students in their clinics, so that's why that number tends to be high in the NA category. But this chart is great. I can represent many slices and dices of this data by patient demographics to show you what the response rates are. So one chart can be very powerful. All right, where's my mouse? All right, next steps. And Deb, I've sent you this PowerPoint that has all these links in it. So feel free to distribute to whoever might want to see that. But the first thing that starts you out getting a license is that you just submit a ITS ticket for a Power BI Pro license, and that'll get you a license then that you can download and start to work. Then you want to the first thing you want to do is get data. Within Power BI, there's a multitude of data sets that you can get. So you'd be amazed of the types. I haven't found one yet that it can't do. So but it's certainly got the basics of Excel, CSV text files, SQL, cloud databases. It'll do Google Sheets. It'll do a ton of different data types that you can connect into. Then you want to transform your data. So now I've got my data set in. I want to transform it, especially for patient surveys. Let me talk a little bit about that. In the patient survey project, the data was really wide because it had responses listed out as columns. And so what I did is I pivoted it and pulled it down to make it more manageable, and performance-wise it was much better. So it's just, here's a question and here's a response. And so you want to shape your data and transform it to get the best results on your visualization. And that's what that, whoops. That's what that unpivot the wide data to get very long data. And then interactive dashboards, like I said, you want to have curious users, you want to have them be able to move the cursor over different points of your dashboard and get tooltip data, or be able to filter the data to look at it different ways. I've listed a number of resources on ways to learn Power BI. Certainly LinkedIn Learning has got some sessions. Microsoft Learn, if you search on Power BI, it's got a lot. And then there's a YouTube channel that's very popular, Guy in a Cube, that will walk you through it in a YouTube visual. So it's nice in a video to see him step by step and pause it and take a look at it. So this is a Power BI dashboard view. It's a bit busy, but you can collapse and expand your dashboards. This particular view, I've selected this on the left-hand side. You can kind of see a bar diagram, and that's for reports. So in this report, I have data on my right-hand side, and this happens to be application data from our new Reach CRM system. So I've got application data by periods and by contact. So I can see this application, and it has a person, an applicant attached to it, and that contact has race and ethnicity information associated with it, as well as gender and first-time student, all kinds of different demographics associated with it, as well as program data. So I know this application, this applicant, and these programs that are applying to. And that's all information that I've drug into this big center canvas area and have selected under the build. You can see the chart types. So this becomes very visual itself as a tool. You select the type of chart that you want to build. In this case, it was a stacked bar chart. It'll give me X and Y axis and legend. So it'll say, okay, drag columns, drag your data to the X axis. And I happen to have the application year and then the school and program information listed on that also. And then on the y-axis, then I have tell me how many applicants. And so then you have in the middle this stacked bar chart with a legend of race. So this happens to be the race breakout by application year. This one didn't show my program, but it should show your program. And then you could see the different color, the legend across the top with the American Indian, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian, and so on across. That's what the different stacked bar charts show. So you can kind of see over time, what are my numbers of applicants by race and ethnicity. Trying to think what else to show you on this. If you look on the left-hand side, there's a table, down from the bar chart, there's a table. So you could select on the tables, you would see all your tables listed out and all the data. So if you ever need to see it in raw cross-tab looking forms, that's how you could see it. And then you'll see the little boxes with the lines. Those are your data models. So what are my relationships between an application and a contact and a program? You could see it all in that particular view. But once you've got your data model put in, the visualization, like I said, is dragging and dropping your data onto that X and Y and legend axis. And quickly you can visualize your data and draw out salient points that you're trying to tell about your data. I think that's about it. I have left plenty of time for questions. So feel free to see. I can see a few in the chats. Dr. Freeman is in online, and I thought I was gonna talk without you there, but there he is. Yes, and then let Dr. Roy know if you need any of the slides with those links on them, because that's very helpful. But what questions do you guys have? What issues do you run into when you're trying to present your data on your research? And it's crickets.
People were not quite ready to, because this is the thing, is very new to us.
Mm,
Dr.
yeah.
Sparaj came on the video, so
I'll go. Cindy, thank you so much. What a great presentation. And I so appreciate learning about this program, and I'm definitely going to be an adopter. I guess for me, the challenge is just looking for new ways to make the presentation exciting and engaging, and just trying to do something different from the typical kinds of graphs. And certainly as we get into more um, larger types of trials with more complexity, it's great to be able to see these different options, and a program that I think is going to be really helpful. Some of the other programs I've tried have not been as user friendly. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, in the business intelligence space, Microsoft's Power BI is the #1 tool, but I think that's primarily because it comes bundled a bit with your Microsoft accounts. And so a lot of people went to that, but Tableau was the leader for a very long time. But their prices have gone up, and we're shifting to become more Microsoft um, based. So that has definitely driven our change lately to go to the Power BI Microsoft product. But like you could see, I love that this last visual, you see the build and you see all the different chart types. You're selecting the, like the gauge. The gauges are very nice too to show your data. And then I think the interactiveness of the data is key. Um, and I will note that when I developed these are all in my desktop space, but you publish those to the cloud. And then once you publish those to the cloud, then the cloud has hooks in that to say, hey, I want this link, this HTML code to go in my web page. And that's how you get that link. That's how you refresh the data. You tell it, hey, I want to refresh this daily or monthly, or whatever the situation is. But I see Daryl's got a question.
Sure, thanks. Oh, let me lower my hand. So I'm the Director of Clinical Education for the Speech Language Pathology program in Mesa. And one of the things I do, I also have a research. I'm the research advisor for one of our graduate students. So, my question is about PBI here. This is for really large data sets. And, I'm always interested in supporting the students in visualizing their data for their research project that they do. So that's small data sets. And in the case of the student I'm working with, we're talking about a Qualtrics survey that they did to collect data regarding speech language pathologists, um, what goes into the decision making around using thickeners with children, or children, adolescents, and adults with dysphagia. So it's not a huge amount of data. We got, my student has 70 participants. She was going for 40, the IRB, that's what she put in. So is this is this PBI, can that be used with these small
Oh yeah.
extractions? Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's scalable, certainly. And I'd note when you said Qualtrics, I was like, this patient survey was all done with Qualtrics data
Okay.
that we then extracted. We built some code to have it extract daily, and put that in a space that the dashboard, Power BI picked up that daily updated file, and that's why you see these date stamps on this thing. The numbers have been increasing. That's how we could tell if a clinic wasn't doing their surveys or they weren't getting good responses. We could just filter on a particular clinic and say, "Hey, AFA, what happened?" We're seeing one response for a few days here. That we need to look at the survey collecting, how you're distributing your surveys, and things like that. But yeah, definitely. And survey data um, it's got its particulars. Like I said, survey data will come very wide, but you really want it to be, a question and then a response, and then that pivots it to make it um, a very tall database, and makes it very good for the visualization to say, here's a question, here's a response, and then you have that nice sliding scale response of positive, neutral, and negative responses. But yes, certainly, we've used it, all different types of data. The Qualtrics data is great, and large or small. I've done things. What did I do? Attendance, I think, I do for the teaching and learning center. Who's attending the TLC events, and it's a bit of a trick because they're Zoom meetings, and not everybody's Zoom session is tailored with their what school and program they work for. I can't really identify because some people just say Cindy's phone. It's like, oh, that doesn't line up with the school or program. So you do have to play around with how to massage your data. There's hardly a case where you get by where you can just ingest your data and then put it in a dashboard. You always got to do something to massage that data to clean it up. Yeah, good question. It's definitely a scalable tool.
Thank you.
Mhm. I think, Maria, I see your hand.
Thank you, Cindy. Great presentation. We really appreciate it. I have a question. So for the research that's going on through the ATSRI, the Research Institute, we often use REDCap. Do you know if you're able to use REDCap and hook it up and use this
Yep.
analysis tool?
Yeah. Yep. Yes. Like I said, all those cloud databases, you can connect up to any type of one. This one that I showed you, where I'm picking up application data um, off the Azure cloud. You just have to have the right credentials. You've got to have your server name. It can be a little tricky, but as long as you get your nomenclature right on the server name, and then your user and password, then you're golden. But yeah, I connect to several cloud databases. Pretty
Awesome.
much all of them are going to cloud. So
So do you set it up as a connection to REDCap in Power BI one time, or does each study have to connect up?
no, so what you do is connect it up once, so you're in your desktop view, which is this view. Get the data, connect it up, get all your credentials right, get your data model right. How do you want to, what are your tables, and what are your relationships amongst the tables? And then you're fine tuning your visualization. You publish to the service, and then in the service, the Power BI service, which is the Power BI cloud. And then in there, you would set your your data refresh to say what your frequency is. And then you'll also need to configure a data gateway if you have any on-premise data. But if you're all cloud, you should be good. But if you get stuck or anything, me and my team can help you. I've got myself and then 2 other people that can also help to respond to those. But yeah, we can help you get through some of those connection issues.
Thank you so much.
Mhm. Yeah, it seems daunting, but it's not as bad as it seems.
Cindy, Dr. Fick has a question.
Yes.
What has been the general receptivity of this type of data visualization of doctoral research projects? Do we know?
Um, in like student research projects, or what type of projects? I'm sorry.
It says doctoral research projects. So, Dr. Fick, would you be kind enough to elucidate?
Yes, thanks so much. So we have our students in our DRP courses, DRP 5, that are preparing to submit a manuscript. And of course, the word count is significantly less than it was previously in the entire DRP. So I'm curious, because they're submitting to an actual peer-reviewed journal, what the receptivity of those journals might be, if you have any sense of that at this point, to looking at this kind of data visualization versus the more traditional tables that you might see in a dissertation or a doctoral research project.
I don't know, just because I haven't played in that space, but I know you can, these dashboards can be interactive, but you could certainly create static images off of these. So you could, export it to a PDF or a JPEG file, and then import it into your research paper
Okay.
and have that static image, and then just change the filters, take another a snapshot, basically insert that static image into your document. And those, it's the same thing as doing it as an interactive dashboard, but you're walking through the steps. Here's
Sure.
this salient point of, hey, females that respond to this patient survey tend to have a lower score or higher score.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, data visualization, I feel like really exploded during COVID. You saw during COVID, the John Hopkins University published COVID numbers in these dashboards. They were all done in Tableau, but those started getting the population used to visualizing data and seeing these graphs, and they paid more attention because it was COVID and I'm locked inside and I want to know what's going out there. Are the numbers spreading? What type of COVID is spreading, and those kinds of things. So yeah, since COVID, it's just been a huge explosion in data visualization and the need for data visualization, and it hasn't gone back. It's just growing. Throw in AI on this thing and it'll get easier. You can we haven't got it yet, but you eventually will have Copilot hooked up to Power BI, and so you can ask Copilot right in Power BI, hey, how can I make this, why doesn't my graph show differently, or I've got this error, those kinds of things. Right now I have to ask Copilot outside of Power BI, but it's coming.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if I'm not really looking to publish it, in other words, I don't mean to put it on the cloud. I just wanted to build it so that I can share
Yes.
the dashboard with just
Mm.
one or two people in the research team so that they can play with it.
Mhm.
And how do I do that? Do you get-
Yes, good. It's a great question. Right now, the way our licensing is working is we're paying by the drink. So if you create this beautiful dashboard and you want to share it with two people, those two people have to have licenses also. So you need to get them to have a license, even though they're just viewing it, they would need to have a license. But we've got a great educational discount on Power BI licenses, so it's not as bad as it seems. But you basically get them to have licenses, but you'd still need to publish. You still need to publish on the cloud because you're still on the desktop. It's just your space. So you would publish to the service, to the cloud, and then they would be able to, you'd share it with them there in that cloud space, and then they could view it in the service. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I see. So it's not like a file, like an Access database file that I can send to
You
people in
could.
an email attachment or any. No.
You could, these are PBIX files, and you could share that with them and then they could open it up into their desktop version, certainly. But you really want to use that cloud to collaborate. So you aren't, you're dealing with one version of it up in the cloud, but you could certainly do that desktop to desktop. You could share your .pbix file with them, and then they could open it up with the license and play with it from there.
And they can see just the user.
Yep.
Like they can use it, see it just as a end users, right?
They could pick it up and then they could modify it. I mean, at that point, if they're in desktop, they're going to pull up that desktop screen and they could add more fields to there, or whatever they want to do. I want to create a pie chart. I love pie charts. They could do that. So yeah, that's why I'm saying I think it's better to go to the cloud, and then from there they can visualize it or view it as a viewer only in the cloud space. So you're collaborating in the cloud, not on your desktops.
And so it's not free, huh? Even if we contacted ITS, it's not free. No, I
No,
thought,
no,
oh,
we pay per user license, but
oh,
yeah, if there are other researchers, just have them get a license and you should be good.
I see.
Yeah, certainly doable.
Thank you.
The student question though is bigger. Certainly for employees, Power BI is covered, but the student question, I don't know. I need to figure out the answer to that, to your question, I think, Daryl.
I believe Dr. Freeman had a question. His hand was raised. Dr.
Thank
Freeman?
you, Dr. Roy, and I've observed Ms. Ogren's magic through the process of helping to design a dashboard for our patient care centers, and it truly is remarkable how much we can learn at my age. And I want to say that my premature perception is that when it relates to research, back to perhaps Dr. Fick's, what underlies his question there, I think the demographic data that we present in, at least in quantitative research studies, can be fairly easily displayed and perhaps better displayed in research studies and in research papers using these kinds of visualization, data visualization tools. Again, that's kind of premature, but I'm trying to think through this and learn. Quantitative studies, the scientists are so accustomed to assessing statistical significance. And so we dig into these data and we know what we're looking at, and we may be a pretty small percentage of the population that does, but nonetheless we learn and we figure out what is significant and what is not, and how that works with our hypotheses. So I guess as with this group of scientists who are on today, how might it be that we can take outcomes from a hypothesis, which is really the creme de la creme, and convert those into visuals that help to discuss and present our data more effectively? Perhaps I would tee that up for anyone who might want to jump on, because that's what I would think. I would think that could be really helpful in making your case for a hypothesis that you think you've strengthened through your research.
Yeah, Dr. Freeman, I think that's a great discussion. I think thinking back on the patient survey data, um, many slices and dices of this data, but I think what I did is I picked up one of the race and ethnicities, and I need to clean these up. You know, we have too many choices that people can do. They're open-ended questions, like on gender. Well, male, female, prefer, not prefer, you know, agender. There's just this open text field. And so I kind of need to cleanse that a little bit, especially since I don't want to get too small a granularity. If you get one person, you can identify. But I think what I looked at was a particular race or something, multiple races or something. When I clicked on that and the dashboard changed, I could see they had a less favorable response. You know, I could see a lot more of the violet and oranges in their responses than any other group. And I think that is how you get that needle in a haystack. It's like, look at this data and this is what it's showing us. By responses, patient responses in this race are feeling not so welcomed in our clinics, or, you know, in this particular case, it's the clinic. But that then, like I said, Dr. Fick, you could screenshot that and place that into your documentation saying, this is what the data presents for this particular race, ethnicity group, as opposed to all races. And you can see clearly that negative response, more negative response than positive response.
So I think the takeaway is, Cindy, is that at this point of time, we can do a lot with like exploring the data using these tools, right? We find things that we didn't expect, really. Hypothesis testing probably would be something that comes next. Like once we find weird things, that, like you found that Native American data point, remember, it was so weirdly exciting. Then but then we can build so I think to answer Dr. Freeman's question, I think we can build hypotheses from those observations, right, that we did not. But then that the fun part is finding data that we wouldn't have seen in. It's like a microscope for data, really. Find things that we didn't expect in real life.
Thank you for that
Yeah.
response, Dr. Roy. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, great summary.
Now is the best time to ask your questions. Well, Cindy, are you available to answer questions via email if your email is shared? I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're the only person who knows about this, literally.
Yeah, you can email me. I just may not get a quick response. The fall right now is very busy for me, but yes, you can. I'm always happy to help.
Thank you. So if there are no more questions, then this brings us to the end of today's session, and we would like to thank you very much for joining today. I think I have sent everybody a copy of the slides. Those of you asked on the chat, if you haven't asked yet, just email me at my email, which is my first name, last name at atsu.edu. And or can contact us on our ATSRI email, and we'll be happy to send you the slides. Please look out for our next session, which will be in October. And thank you, everybody. And we'll give you 4 minutes of your time back. Have a blessed Wednesday.